Okay, Group E. Costa Rica, Germany, Japan, and Spain. And I think this again is going to be, for me anyway, a fairly easy 1-2 when it comes to it. But will we group Japan and Costa Rica together? And what do you make of their chances of upsetting the apple cart here?
Hey, let's talk about Costa Rica first. But I don't think you can. Underweight Japan. But yeah, so this Costa Rica squad, first of all, I know exactly who you're going to mention first. Am I that predictable of a human being? Yeah. Brian Ruiz is still playing football at 37 years old.
Fulham legend.
Oh God, it made me so goddamn happy when I saw that Brian Ruiz was still playing. And 37. He's going to captain Costa Rica again. Theoretically, this is his last tournament, but who knows?
We've been here before.
If he plays in the group stage games, he'll make it to 147 caps, which is incredibly impressive. So yeah, I'm just looking forward to seeing kind of where he is in his life and his career at this point. Joel Campbell, formerly of Arsenal, is also still kicking around the squad. I expected him to be much older, but he's only 30.
Brian Oviedo as well, still kicking about.
Oh, Brian Oviedo, an Everton legend. And again, probably using that term kind of loosely. Mm-hmm. There was that phase of like all ex-Everton and Man United players just rocking up at Sunderland, and I'm pretty sure he turned up there for a paycheck for a while.
It's funny because you've got like, I'm just looking at the list of caps in this squad now, and you've got 3 players, like 2 around the 150 mark. Oh, sorry, then 2 around the 100, 110 mark. And then there's a massive drop off in terms of caps with the rest of the chasing pack here. There's like a number of people in this squad who've played less than 10 times for Costa Rica.
Look, the funny thing about Costa Rica is in the 2014 World Cup, they go into a group stage with Italy, with England, and with Uruguay, and they win it. So yeah. There is the possibility that they're about to spring like one hell of a surprise in this group. Yeah. I don't think they will, but it is possible. And look, at the very top of the tree, Keylor Navas, probably a top 10 goalkeeper in the world. Mm-hmm. Really good goalkeeper. He's kind of fighting out for his place at the moment at PSG. But still, like, on his day, absolutely fantastic goalkeeper. And almost kind of not fair that PSG are sort of like keeping him and Donnarumma on the books at the same time when either one of them is good enough to be the main star at any other club in Europe to a certain extent. So yeah, there is quality in here, but it's kind of sprinkled very lightly across the squad. And yeah, you know what? Fuck it. Brian Ruiz to take this group for Costa Rica. Would love to see it.
You know what? Talk to me about this Japan team, because much as I was very flippant about them earlier on, I do think there's 2 very creative little players that I would like to see in this team. They're on the young side. Well, one of them's in their mid-20s, but I became only aware of him in the last couple of years, so I feel like I'm putting him at the same age as the other guy. But Takefusa Kubo is 21 and a guy who's threatened to kind of kick on to the next level. People have been talking about him as a big deal for a while, but the guy I became aware of the last while, who I think might have a very impressive World Cup, is Daichi Kamada from Eintracht Frankfurt.
Yeah, Kamada is a really good player. He was, it just workmanlike in that midfield when we came up against Eintracht in the Europa League a few years ago. He very much impressed me, and again, like watching the final between Eintracht and Rangers, he was a guy that stood out as just a very, very solid guy in there. There's lots of players in this Japanese team.
Big pop for Maya Yoshida still being their captain.
Yeah, Maya Yoshida is still the captain. Into his mid-30s at this point. You kind of almost shocked, open mouth shocked, that Kyogo Furuhashi from Celtic hasn't made it, because boy do I love watching that guy on the highlights on Sky Sports News every week doing something awesome. But Daisen Maeda has made it from Celtic, and I probably expect him to be the starting centre forward in this team. And then there's just a lot of players who play for like really good teams. I don't know how much you've seen of of Brighton this season. But have you the last couple of months, Karol Mitoma in the midfield for Brighton has just been a real kind of breakout guy, either playing like off wide or through central, in behind strikers. A really impressive player, and they just have guys at like, Stuttgart, but I even mentioned Tomiyasu, who's been a very, very decent player for Arsenal in the last couple of months and through their great start to the season. And there's a lot of guys at top European clubs across top European leagues in this Japanese team that maybe aren't necessarily like the standout option, but they are really talented. And I think, like, when you remember what they did to Germany in the last World Cup, you kind of have to treat them just with a little bit more respect than I think like the average person would be when they look at it on paper. They only lost twice in their last 13 games as well, so they are a good team. I just feel really bad for them that they happen to have been drawn in this, what is for them probably a group of death with two European superpowers.
Speaking of which, Germany and Spain, let's talk about them. Two teams that have won the World Cup not too long ago. They were the two superpowers in Europe until France strode into the clearing. I feel like not a lot of people are talking up either team as being a favourite, particularly Germany, I think, aren't being rated as having much of a chance of winning this thing. But you look at both of these squads, and again, there is a lot of talent in there. I think Spain seem to be a team that are on the rise again, with a lot of really young talent breaking through, and some of the older guards still there. Whereas Germany is still this kind of hodgepodge of, they're a team that I feel, for the weight of talent they have, Jack, and you may disagree with me on this, I feel like they should be a lot more terrifying than people are saying they are.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I do feel like, having watched them a couple of times in the last couple of years, Hansi Flick is trying to change the culture and the style of play a little bit. I think he is trying to build a sort of modern, attacking football team in the image of what you would see kind of week in, week out in the Bundesliga, and really trying to get that German style of play, or the modern German style of play, across on the international level. And look, it has mixed results. It really does. Like the game against England a few months ago, where they go 2-0 up, make England look silly, but then lose like 3 goals within the space of like 10-15 minutes before, finding an equalizer in that game. It just shows that the two sides of the coin is that, yes, there is a lot of talent and players who can on their day rip you to pieces, but for a team that has a lot of decent options going forward and very, very good players in the midfield, the defense kind of still, outside of Rudiger, leaves a little bit to be desired for me. I see Rudiger as like the cornerstone, the linchpin of this defense for Germany, but Süle is a solid player and he's probably going to partner him at centre half. But watching him in the Champions League, I just don't trust him.
He hasn't got that. If somebody gets in behind him, I don't back him to be able to keep pace with them.
Yeah,
at the top level of forward.
Pretty much. And the options in and around that fullback, again, nothing that's filling me full of particular. Like Thilo Kehra's had a decent enough season at West Ham, but there's not enough here really to kind of convince me to get really, really excited from a defensive point of view. But the midfield is probably going to be Joshua Kimmich and Leon Goretzka, who start every week for Bayern Munich and are both fantastic players. The forward line is basically going to be all Bayern Munich except Havertz. You'd imagine Gnabry, Müller and Sane are in and around it, and then Havertz playing his kind of false 9 role. Off the bench options as well that they have, I can't wait to see if Jamal Musiala gets any game time for them, because he could be the next cab off the rank as a guy who, you know, took control of his career at a young age in England, decided to leave Chelsea, went over to Germany, as we've seen a few youngsters do, you know, notably like Sancho and Bellingham in the last few years, and has really developed a very, very promising career out there in Germany. And I feel like if he starts getting game time, then it'd be pretty cool to see what he could do on an international stage. And yeah, you've still got your standard like cornerstones like Ilkay Gundogan in there, always been a very good player, and you know, has added goals to his game a lot more in the last few years for Man City. So I see a team that has lots of flickers of light and lots of promise in it, but I just think from watching their actual on-pitch performances, the inconsistency worries me, and the lack of solidity in defence worries me too.
Did you think that we would be going into a World Cup with a Spain team where two of their keepers play for Brighton and Brentford respectively?
No, I really didn't. Yeah. And you know, the irony of it is as well, like I wonder how close Kepa would have been to Pip and Unai Simon for that place had he not got injured pre-tournament as well, where it's like you've got a Brighton keeper, a Brentford keeper, and Kepa. That's the three options. And I think Kepa, even though he's at Chelsea, all you need to say is Kepa. We all know what that means.
It's shorthand.
Yeah, even though he had a pretty good season. Yeah. But Spain. I'm excited about Spain. I am. I think they are.
I think if it all clicks, I think they could do very well. Do I think they'll win? Look, I wouldn't be the most shocking World Cup winner, but you know, I think maybe I think the Euros next time round are probably the time for Spain to return to the throne. I think maybe they're just a couple of years shy of being that decisive tournament favourite.
Yeah. The midfield in Pedri and Gavi would be set for the next decade. You know, just disgusting options there. I don't know whether they start Busquets or whether they start Rodri as that kind of pivot point behind both of them, or whether they would go with kind of a double pivot Busquets Rodri option and have Pedri to kind of dictate in front of the play. Pretty fucking good options, if I do say so though, and that would excite me. I think from a like defensive perspective, the centre halves, you know, Laporte always been a very, very good player. You know, whether it's a Pau Torres they go for back there, or a Garcia, or a Martinez, I think there's some solidity in that. And again, it's a Luis Enrique team, so they are very intense. They will monopolise possession in the traditional Spanish way.
Twitch.tv superstar Luis Enrique.
That's pretty much the guy. And you know, it's nice to see probably what's the last World Cup for Jordi Alba as well. But he's had a bit of a return to form, I would say, with Barcelona this year, from having watched some of them and watched some of the games that he's played. Kind of dipped off a little bit the last few years, but he's been playing some good stuff for them. And I think Spain, no one's really talking about them too much.
No.
It's the name brand, isn't it? It's like, you know, the sort of Walker's crisps of like, you know, no one really talks about Walker's that much. But if you get a bag of Walker's crisps, you know, salt and vinegar flavour, it just hits different sometimes, right? So I think the name brand value of Spain kind of might resonate with some people, but people that kind of inside football, I don't know how much they're talking about them, but they can really use that to their advantage. And if Spain get to the semi-finals, for me, not shocked. If Spain went on to win it, maybe a little shocked, but also at the same time, their talent in this team is pretty high, and it wouldn't be confusing. It would be confusing if they start Morata in every game and he plays really well.
Oh, have you seen that footage from him in training?
I don't.
Oh my God. They were talking about how, you know, like Argentina have, you know, Messi, Lautaro, blah, blah, blah. Somebody else has this player, that player. And then it's like Spain's number 9 and it's a picture of him missing an open goal in training.
Bless him.
God bless him. I think Spain are going to be one of the more fun teams in the tournament because of that mixture of some very, very talented established players and then the injection of the younger ones in the squad now. So I think there'll be a lot of fun to watch. And could be. It's weird to say it with Spain, but could be due a sneaky deep run in this tournament. Let's go with our rankings for this group. Yep. I'm saying Spain top the group.
Yep.
I'm saying Germany comes second.
Yep.
And then,
Japan, Costa Rica.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah. But you know what? If Japan found themselves in that round of 16, don't be too shocked by that.
Yeah, look, we all know from very recent experience that Germany are well capable of collapsing.
Yeah. Well, this is it. Like that 2018 World Cup performance. And again, it was Japan that did for them in one of those games. So, if they're seeking revenge too hard, they could get caught out again by the Japanese.